Welcome back. In this video, we'll be looking at more division of fractions. Specifically, we'll focus on what a reciprocal is and how you find them. And then we'll actually see some examples of doing division with fractions. So where we left off last time was we had gone through some steps to show that if you're taking a fraction a over b and dividing by another fraction c over d, we went through some steps and saw that you can replace that division by a multiplication, and the second fraction, c over d, got replaced by the fraction d over c. So it turns out that there's a special name for that fraction in relation to the first fraction. So a little definition. If a over b is a fraction, and a is not 0 and b is not 0, so neither the numerator nor denominator can be 0, then we're defining the reciprocal of that original fraction, a over b, to be b over a. So basically, we're going to swap the numerator and denominator. That gives us the reciprocal of the original fraction. So let's try. We're going to find the reciprocal of each of the following numbers. So 5/8, its reciprocal will be 8/5. Okay, simple, right? We just trade the top and bottom. Note that the word reciprocal, it goes both ways, so that the reciprocal of 5/8 is 8/5, and the reciprocal of 8/5 is 5/8. Okay, for negative 2/3, just because it's negative doesn't really change a whole lot. We're still going to keep it negative. We will trade the numerator and denominator. Okay, so the reciprocal of negative 2/3 will be negative 3/2. Okay, 4. To do 4, a lot of times people have trouble with this one because it's harder to visualize it as a fraction, but remember that 4 is the same as 4 over 1. And so to form its reciprocal, we will have 1/4. Okay, 1/3, its reciprocal will be 3 over 1. Negative 7, remember negative 7 is the same as negative 7 over 1, so its reciprocal will be negative 1/7. Okay, 0, 0 doesn't have a reciprocal, so we'll just say not possible. It's the only number that doesn't have a reciprocal. Okay, you can't divide by 0, so there's no sticking 0 in the denominator of a fraction. Okay, 11/16, 11/16, its reciprocal will be 16 over 11. Okay, for 8/7, its reciprocal will be 7/8. 2 more. 9/16, we'll have 16 over 9, and then for 5/7, we'll have 7/5. Okay, so another way of looking at, by the way, another way of looking at a reciprocal of a number is you could say that two numbers are reciprocals of each other if their product is equal to 1. For example, 9/16 times 16/9, that's going to equal 1. 5/7 times 7/5 is going to equal 1. Whenever you have two numbers that are reciprocals, their product is going to equal 1. Okay, so now that we know about the word reciprocal, the directions: to divide by a fraction, you multiply by its reciprocal. So let's see some examples. So here we're going to begin with 2/3 divided by 3/5. So we'll keep the first fraction the same. We'll turn the division into a multiplication, and instead of 3/5, we will have 5/3. Okay, there's no simplification to be done here, so we'll multiply across. 2 times 5 is 10, and 3 times 3 is 9. So that is just 10/9. By the way, note that there's no canceling across division signs. When you saw this problem, 2/3 divided by 3/5, I can't cross out those 3's. Okay, the fundamental property of fractions doesn't work like that. You'd have to have a multiplication here in order for us to be able to divide out the 2 3's. Okay, so no canceling across division. Okay, negative 11/16, we'll keep the first fraction the same. The division becomes multiplication. Instead of 7/8, we will have 8/7. Okay, this time we do get a little bit of simplification, but we have to do it after we've changed our problem into a multiplication problem. 8 divides into 16 2 times, 8 divides into 8 once. So then we will have Multiplying across, we'll have negative 11 over 14. Okay, for our final answer. This procedure of finding a reciprocal and multiplying is where you may have heard in your earlier schooling people say invert and multiply. What's being inverted or flipped over is the second fraction. You'll notice in this process that we never flip over the first fraction. It's always the second fraction. Whatever you're dividing by, that's the number whose reciprocal we find. Okay, next we have 3 divided by negative 1/4. That'll remain 3. We'll have it multiplied now times negative 4 over 1. Okay, 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. That's it. Is that all we got? That's all we got. Okay, so we'll have some more examples next. Okay, in this one, we have a combination of a division and a multiplication. We're going to follow order of operations and work our way from left to right. So we'll take the 2/3 divided by 11/5 first. So we'll write 2/3. We'll change the division to multiplication. Instead of 11/5, we'll have 5/11. And then I'm going to copy over that multiplication by negative 6/7. Okay, so at this point, it's just a multiplication problem. So let's do it. Check and see if there's any simplification that can be had. I see the 3 and the negative 6 are both divisible by 3. And it looks like that's everything. So let's multiply across. 2 times 5 is 10, times negative 2 is negative 20. And then down below, 1 times 11 is 11, times 7 is 77. So we'll have negative 20 over 77. Okay, so next step, we'll have negative 4/5 divided by 2 times 8/17. So take a second, pause the video, try this yourself, and then restart the video and see how you did. Okay, so hopefully you tried that. We're going to change our division here to a multiplication. Remember that 2 is the same as 2 over 1. So we're going to replace that by its reciprocal, which is 1/2. And then the 8/17 is just going to be a copy. Okay. In a way, I think division problems with fractions are really short because like the first thing you do is change them to a multiplication problem, and then it's a multiplication problem from then on. So the division part of it is really short. All right, so now we're multiplying. So common factors of 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. And that's all we got. Okay, so now multiplying across, we'll have negative 16 in the numerator, and then 5 times 17 is 85 in the denominator. Okay, so there's a couple of examples involving division with fractions. In the next video, we'll see some more examples along with some applications. In the meantime, let me know if you have any questions, and have a great day.